Anyway, so hammer drill, try and make sure the cord more or less like that, instead of just kind of wadded, gets coiled up and put back in that portion of the thing. This rag and this lube, on hammer drills, you have actually normally lubrication that goes on these splines. The reason why you put it on is because it builds up heat as you're hammering on it, that transfers in, and this can bind up inside of the tool. So it's not because you're lubricating the drilling or anything else, is to make it so that this piece comes out of the tool when you're done still, so that you don't bind it up, things don't happen. So if it doesn't have any, this one's been used before, but it's just a little pump thing. You can just put, it doesn't take a lot, and because lunch is already over, I'll just use my fingers, you know. Anyway, you just put a little bit on there like that before you put it in. If it has some, you don't need to put more on it. It doesn't have to be a ton, but at the same time, then try and keep those out of the dirt, because then you put the dirt in there, then it's not great. So if they get dirty, wipe them back off. But that's the purpose of the lube, is so that the tool will come back out when you're done. Okay, on this hammer drill, when you pull it out, this has to go down like that for it to close. You loosen this up and the handle will rotate so that you can, it will also spin this way just for a grip. Most of the time I would just tend to use this one, because this one has to be on it for the case to close. There is this other style of handle. We'll probably just put it in a box or a drawer at the shop so it doesn't get lost and it's not in the way. Anyway, so in addition, on the hammer drill, there is a speed control on this hammer drill to increase or decrease. What that really does is determine, it depends on the setting. On the top of the hammer drill, you have some different settings, and there's icons here to help you know which the settings are. Right now, this is on hammer and drill, so that speed would adjust essentially both of those features. Okay, if we put in a different tip, and this case doesn't have any of these tips, but the other larger hammer drill that we have as well has these same features, and we have some chipping bits in that larger hammer. Okay, that would be a hammer only. Now, just so you know, sometimes when you go to that hammer only mode, it actually locks in the rotation. So if you want to turn it, because some of our bits are blades, you may want to actually turn it to the right place and then lock it into the hammer only mode so it's turned how you want. That's how you determine it, is while it's still in a drilling mode and that will turn, then you can make that adjustment. So depending on what you're doing, for the most part, we won't do a lot of chipping with this one. The bigger one just does so much better with chipping than this one. This one will mostly be doing hammering. We also have over here a hammering. So depending on which one, like this one over here, in this hammer, you actually have to use the on-off button. I think, if I remember right, instead of a trigger type feature, it's only on or off. So you like pull the trigger once and it turns it on and keeps hammering. It's kind of an anti-fatigue type scenario. So you pull the trigger and it will start hammering, you pull the trigger and it would stop hammering. On the other larger one, it actually has a red button right here. You push that red button in once on that mode right there, and it'll hammer or not hammer. So that's,
we're using this at the drop.
That's really what's going on right there. So on the hammer drill bits themselves, down near the bottom, in between where it chucks into the machine and the helix of the bit, it'll tell you the size. So this one's a 3/4 inch hammer drill. The other thing is, when I buy, especially on the bigger ones, I always buy what they call the 4 cutter heads. This one is fairly well used already. The 2 side cutter heads are already pretty much worn off. But the 4 cutter heads just work a lot faster. So we've got different sizes, again, depending on what we're doing. This one's 1.25 inches. As a rule of thumb, when you are drilling to epoxy, you're 1/8 inch larger than the bar. So a number 4 bar is 4/8 or 1/2 inch. So you need to drill with a 5/8 drill bit if you're drilling and epoxying it in. They want that 1/8 of an inch all the way around for the epoxy to adhere to the cement and to the rebar. Okay, so that will determine, you check the plan, see what size bar you're going in, that would determine. Sometimes, some of our stuff, so we have some number 9 bar that go in the bottom of our grade beams. 9/8 or 1 1/8, so that's 1 1/4, or this drill bit right here. That is a pretty big hole. What you might find is it would be way easier to actually drill it once with the 5/8, that's half of it, and then finish up with the 1 1/4, and it may drill a lot faster to do 2 holes than try and do 1 hole at once. And we have one other scenario here. What tends to eat up these drill bits the fastest is when we hit rebar. And you normally know when you hit rebar because this has a clutch built into it. As it catches the rebar going through the hole, it will normally stall out. It'll jerk the drill bit some and some other things. So when you hit that, we want to switch to these right here that are called rebar eaters, is what they call them. So they're like mini core drills is what they are, but with special tips on them. Now here's the catch. These do not go in that machine. They go in the regular drill. So we have a D-handled low-speed drill that's not in your
It's in the back of my truck.
gang box right now. That's what we will use with these rebar eaters. But if you think that you've hit some rebar, rather than try and pound through it, you can eventually, on some bar, if it's a smaller piece, you can pound through it with these, but you eat up a $50 bit
And you don't have to.
and you can't drill any more holes. These are about, I think, $60 to $80 depending on the size, so they're very expensive. So you only use that while you're going through the bar, and you should be able to tell as well. You'll feel that, hey, I finished going through the bar. Then switch back to the hammer drill.
Never hammer drill with those. You'll hit
Yeah.
them up in 2 seconds.
It'll bust the ends off and stuff because they're hardened, so it'll eat them up really quick. But it won't even chuck up in the drill properly. But make sure again, our laborers, Everett, Seth, things like that, that they are aware of this, and they.
I think you meant Brett.
Brett. No, I meant Everett.
Oh, yeah.
He's all labor, man. He's Hercules.
Because I'm the only one that knows how to do any of this. That's why.
Make sure that they know and understand that. We will get a couple, as with all of the tools, the rule of thumb is use the old one up until it's used up, and then start using the new one. And once one's used up, let us know so we can pick up another one. Just because of the price of these, again, running anywhere, so the bigger ones run upwards close to $100, these other ones $50 to $80, 50 to 60 on these, around 80 on these rebar eaters. So it's a lot of money to just buy several and have them sitting around and get misplaced.
How will they know when they're used up?
Well, look at the tips. See,
Yo,
the ends are carbide, hardened carbide steel is what they are here. So you can tungsten. So you can see now that dish in there is actually part of it. That's how they do it. A brand new one, you can see on one of these brand new ones that it's also dished a little bit right there. Okay, so this is practically a brand new bit here, but you look closely at this one and see the side has nothing sticking above the rest of the head right there. It's already worn off. You can see it's actually probably hit rebar and it's chipped off is what's happened. So this one still has
One
the,
side is
the 2 main cutters are still there. We would continue to use it. It's just not going to drill as fast anymore. So yeah, it'll still do it. So once that carbide is smooth with the rest of those faces, or there's nothing sticking above, that drill bit's done. We put it in the metal recycle pile and we start with another one. So the other thing, because a lot of our holes have to go in, we want to watch that when we're drilling. We don't want to drill clear into the other building if we aren't supposed to. So pretty much everything has a depth called out, how far in to go. 6 or 12 inches is most of it. So we've opted to buy longer ones that will allow us to go either depth. This one won't go in, the whole 12 inches, so this is only good for the 6-inch holes. Rather than get 2 sets of bits for everything, we're just going with the longer bits for this, is what we're doing.
you just take a Sharpie and mark the depth, and then you can see the depth.
Yeah.
Just go to the Sharpie mark.
So that's another good point. When you're drilling and you know that you have to go to a certain place, then you just take, let's see if we find a tape measure. Thank you.
Oh, Hinkley. That looks familiar.
Where'd it go, everybody? Where you had one?
So you'd normally go maybe a ½ inch over if we're supposed to go 12 inches. Some inspectors will check that and they'll be very particular. So you just color it around just like that, and you'll be able to see that as you're drilling and watch it fairly closely. It will eventually wear off and you might have to put it back on again. Some people put tape, but the tape pushes really easy. It's not as effective as just taking a Sharpie and just marking it. So 12 inches, you can see that's pretty far. Any other questions relating? So when you get out the hammer drill, we try and keep the bits normally up here in the front of the case. That one won't fit, it's too long. None of these, all of these might not fit because we're doing the longer one. We'll come up with something else, a small duffel bag or something that'll go with it. We try and keep all the tools together. The other thing is, after you get it out and you get going, just close the case so things stay clean. We don't lose other parts or anything. And again, end of the day, the hammer drill should be wiped down, go back in the case.
Putting the bit
In the job box.
Putting the bit actually in, that's a really good thing. I really like SDS, well, the smaller hammer drills, if you've noticed, you actually, when you go to put them in,
They only fit in one.
you turn it until you can feel it go, and you don't have to pull this back or anything. It will slide and lock in when it's in the right position. Then you want to release it. You can see the arrows here. You actually pull it back to release it, and it comes out. Okay, so that is how you remove it. And this one you can see has no lubrication. It's been used before, but has no lubrication on it, which isn't great. But you don't have to pull that back to get it in. You just turn it and put a little pressure on until you feel it slide in, check it, and you're good to go. Perfect. Always, with all of these things, you want to make sure you have ear protection, eye protection, and lots of times you'll want a dust mask as well, especially if you're drilling overhead. When we go to put structural steel in on the beams and stuff, you'll want that dust mask. That concrete dust will give you a smoker's lung in a big hurry.
You also, when you're going overhead, want to be careful, like Everett said, especially with these beams that have a lot of rebar. You want to be ready for it to jam and rip around and whack you in the face or whatever else.
That is one thing. Anytime you're using a hammer drill, you really want to be able to kind of brace things. So if you're going into the wall, I use my legs a lot and brace it so that if it catches and tweaks, I still have some control. If I'm like this and it catches, it twists your wrists up, kind of sprains your wrist, things like that. So you want to be able to hold it well. If we're drilling, you need to make sure that the scaffolding is at the right height, that you're not up here like this, you have no control over it. That catches on something that's going to tweak, smack somebody in the face. It should be down at a height, really no higher than chest that you're drilling. Otherwise the scaffolding should really be up higher. The other thing with the drill, they're not really waterproof and or dirt proof, so we want to kind of keep them out of the dirt and dust. I've seen some people, they get down in a trench and they bang it against the trench. You get all that dirt in there, it just eats the motor up. Will be in the shop. So try and keep it clean and out of the dirt and dust. Try and make sure that the cord ends, before you plug them in, like I just dropped that in the dirt, just wipe them off lightly so that there's good contact, so there's not sparking and things like that, and the cord end lasts a long time.